I clock out as I enter the office. "Looks like the work is all done," said Miss Thompson, and I suddenly felt a warmth on my back. Miss Thompson had her arm wrapped around me from my back to my stomach. I froze. "Thank you so much for today." My heart was pounding wildly. "My name is Mike, and I'm 30 years old. I've already had this, and this is okay too." "Oh. I must not forget that." As a delivery person at a linen company, I make sure everything is prepared before departure. It's important to be prepared for any emergencies. Especially today. "Mike, are you still not ready?" President, Miss Thompson called out to me. "Yes, today Miss Thompson will also be accompanying me. There's a meeting at the hotel where we're delivering, and though Miss Thompson usually works alone, this time our schedules matched. And she decided to ride with me in the delivery van." I hurriedly checked the contents of my bag. Okay, this should be good. Am I overlooking anything? I've always been someone who can't rest until everything is thoroughly prepared. When packing for a school trip with my mother, who has the same personality, we ended up filling 2 large bags and got scolded by my father. "It might suddenly get cold, I might feel unwell, what if it's the head? The stomach? A fever?" The possibilities are endless. As I was spinning my thoughts, Miss Thompson zipped up my bag. "Ah!" I screamed, and Miss Thompson glared at me sharply. She's beautiful even when she's stern. Miss Thompson, 2 years older than me, is incredibly gorgeous. Her slightly lifted eyes are double-lidded and beautifully made up. Her jawline is sleek, and her lips are thin. And she has an incredible figure. She seems aware of her physique, gracefully wearing a suit that enhances her body's contours. While glaring at me, she tried to pick up my bag and exclaimed, "Heavy. What in the world do you have in here? We're not staying overnight, you know? The hotel is just an hour's drive away. Why do you need so much stuff?" I was reeling from her scolding. "Well, the forecast said it might snow, and the hotel is up in the mountains, so it might be cold." As I slowly explained, Miss Thompson interrupted me. "Even so. The car is heated, and the parking lot is not far from the entrance. Whether it's cold or it snows, it doesn't matter." With that, Miss Thompson turned away. "Come on. We're running out of time." Prompted by her, I hurriedly shouldered my bag and followed her. It was good that I had finished checking the car and warming up the engine beforehand. Miss Thompson quickly got into the passenger seat, crossing her arms and legs as if urging me to hurry up and leave. I rushed to the driver's seat and stepped on the accelerator. A drive alone with the beautiful president. I tried to contain my excitement and focused on driving safely. "Is it all right if I fill up the gas?" Miss Thompson made a visibly displeased face at my question. Then, she checked the gas meter. "Let's do it on the way back. We have enough for now." She made a quick decision and looked forward. However, Miss Thompson interrupted me as I was about to say something. "We're already cutting it close because of your slow preparation. The manager is a busy person, and we can't afford to be late," she said. I couldn't argue with that. Indeed, there was just enough gas left for a round trip. While I would have preferred more of a buffer, I didn't want to make Miss Thompson any more anxious than she already was. I nodded and focused on driving. As we drove deeper into the mountains, the houses became fewer. The hotel, which is hidden into the mountains and popularized by a TV feature, is our destination today. My job is to deliver freshly cleaned sheets and covers to this hotel and collect the used ones. Usually, I deliver to multiple hotels, but today, since Miss Thompson is accompanying me, we are only delivering to this one. Another employee is handling the deliveries to the other hotels. Though Miss Thompson told me I could relax in the spa while she was in her meeting, I planned to read a book in the lobby. Even with her permission, I don't feel comfortable relaxing in the spa during work hours. The road to the hotel becomes quite narrow halfway there. Passing other vehicles is almost a Herculean task. However, the hotel is at the end of the road, and since checkout and check-in vehicles move at different times, we delivery folks try to avoid the guests' prime times, which helps us avoid tricky situations with other cars. Around the point where the road narrowed, the snow began to pick up. At the same time, the car ahead of us started to slow down. Miss Thompson was anxious about making it on time, but the road wasn't wide enough to pass. We maintained a safe distance behind the car ahead, but then. What the? The car in front had come to a complete stop. That was to be expected since there was a line of cars ahead. A traffic jam here, could it be? It was exactly that, a deadlock. Most likely, a vehicle at the front had gotten stuck, causing a backup. I contacted the hotel. They were unaware of the situation. They promised to investigate the situation immediately. They also kindly acknowledged that being late was unavoidable under these circumstances. I reported back to Miss Thompson with a forced smile, but she remained stern, her eyes fixed forward. Why today of all days, on such an important day? Actually, today's meeting is about future contracts and includes the sales of a new product that Miss Thompson has been eager to launch. This product is very important to Miss Thompson, and she is passionate about introducing it for the first time to this hotel, a long-standing client. I rummaged through my bag and pulled out a thermos. Pouring its contents into a paper cup, I handed it to Miss Thompson. Let's stay calm. The manager is concerned about us. We're fine. This is herbal tea, please have some if you like. As I offered the paper cup, Miss Thompson's eyes widened in surprise as she took it. This was in there. I nodded. When I'm driving alone, I get a bit on edge, and herbal tea calms me down more than coffee. When I responded with a smile, Miss Thompson laughed. With that build of yours, isn't your feminine side a bit too strong? I scratched my head. Having played rugby since I was young, I'm quite bulky. Especially my broad shoulders can make it feel cramped for others in a small car. Today's car is spacious, so Miss Thompson could relax and savor her herbal tea. Delicious. It seemed to help soothe Miss Thompson a bit. I hoped we would get moving soon, but there was no progress. This situation might be getting pretty serious. I started to think so about 30 minutes after the car stopped. The snow kept falling heavily. Now, I was worried about running out of gas and the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning if we kept the engine running. And about the gas. We should have refilled on the way. It seemed Miss Thompson had the same thought. Maybe we should turn off the engine for a bit. I wonder how long the gas will last. We should have refilled earlier, sorry. Faced with Miss Thompson's anxious expression, I responded with a smile. Don't worry. As I spoke, I pulled an aluminum sheet, a blanket, and gloves from my bag, surprising Miss Thompson once again. For now, please use these, Miss Thompson. I'll go shovel the snow from around the exhaust pipe outside. With that, I left the car. The cold air stung my skin. It was better without the wind, but the stillness made the snow pile up more easily. I started shoveling around the exhaust area with a shovel I had stowed in advance. Then, a man from the car behind asked to borrow it. It felt warmer to be moving, so I lightly cleared the snow around a few nearby cars. When I returned, Miss Thompson was surprised again. You had a shovel too? Who are you? I chuckled wryly. Well, I've always been the worrying type, preparing for various things. Something similar happened before. Years ago, when I went out with a friend in their car, we got stuck just like this. My optimistic friend had no emergency supplies, so we got by with the emergency food and blankets I had brought. It was pretty tough. Since then, I've kept various things in my car, especially in winter, just in case we get stuck in the snow. Miss Thompson sighed. I'm sorry, Mike. You had your reasons, and I rushed you and mocked you. Her voice was muffled as she buried her face in the blanket. No. It's just by chance. It's best when nothing happens, but I'm aware I over-prepare, thinking about what could go wrong. Maybe it is a waste of time. I wanted to cheer up Miss Thompson, so I rummaged through my bag again. This time, my waste of time is actually helping you, and honestly, that makes me happy. As I spoke, I offered her some chocolate. Miss Thompson looked up, silently took the chocolate, and brought it to her mouth. Her thin lips crisply snapped a piece off the chocolate bar. Then, she sighed. I'm so useless. I said it wouldn't be cold. Coming here underdressed, taking your blanket. I can't do anything right now. What's wrong with me? I panicked. What are you saying? You're young but you've grown the company and you have great sales skills, you're decisive. As I continued, Ms. Thompson gave a sad smile. You're kind, but what use is being good at my job now? Always so tense at work. Not the most charming woman. I'm just drinking your herbal tea, wrapped in your blanket, eating chocolate. While you're offering all these things and even shoveling snow from other cars. It makes me feel the difference in our humanity. I'm useless. The time felt endless, her mood so unlike the usual Ms. Thompson, I became worried. Then, I decided to share a memory I had been hesitant to bring up. Miss Thompson, you're not useless at all. She gave a wry smile. You don't have to try to cheer me up. I looked her straight in the face. I was actually helped by you once before. At that, her eyes widened. It might have been about 5 years ago. I was at the stadium to watch a soccer game. The fun of being at a stadium is the food. There are stalls selling hamburgers, hot dogs, and fried chicken, and I always go for a hamburger. Stadiums are incredibly cold in winter. Wearing a down jacket my dad bought me as a job celebration gift, I sat down and was wolfing down my hamburger when, ah! Along with my shout, the hamburger fell onto my belly. I panicked. The down jacket my dad had given me was quite expensive. I couldn't bear the thought of a stain remaining on it. I rummaged through my bag and pulled out a towel. At that moment, a woman's sharp voice cut through. Wait! Her cry froze me in place. The woman snatched the towel from my hand and glared at me. If you rub it with that, the stain will set in, she warned. The woman was strikingly beautiful, and I couldn't help but be mesmerized. Oblivious to my stare, she pulled out a handkerchief and lightly dabbed at the mayonnaise and sauce stains. Then, she poured a little of the water from her thermos onto the back of the handkerchief to moisten it. This is plain hot water, she explained. Hot water at a stadium. She must be someone who really takes care of herself, I thought. The trick is not to scrub but to transfer the stain onto a damp cloth or tissue like this. She instructed while pressing the handkerchief against the stained area. Oh. But now the handkerchief will get dirty. I fretted. She chuckled lightly. I was hoping you'd realize that when I first wiped off the mayonnaise and sauce. That made sense, and I hung my head. Seeing this, she smiled. This is just an ordinary handkerchief you can buy anywhere. But that down jacket of yours is expensive, right? Let me see. She said as she flipped my jacket to check the tag. Just as I thought. Make sure to take it to a dry cleaner when you get home. It must be important to you. She said with a smile, and I was charmed by her all over again. We didn't talk much after that. The game ended in a 0-0 draw, so there wasn't much excitement. And I spent the intervals sneaking glances at the woman sitting next to me, completely distracted from the game. After sharing this memory, I concluded, so, Miss Thompson, you're not useless at all. I think you probably help people without even realizing it. Like how you naturally spoke up to help a stranger sitting next to you. It really moved me. Miss Thompson seemed a bit embarrassed but responded with a jest. True. I remember something like that, but weren't you a lot bigger? Spilling over into my seat. I was at a loss for words. Back then, I was struggling with an office job, snacking on sweets at work, and gorging on fried foods after hours. I was stress eating. I was at my heaviest ever. Already having a rugby player's build, when I gained weight, I became quite large. I'm sorry for encroaching on your space, Miss Thompson. When I apologized belatedly, she burst out laughing. But you remembered all this time? Did you realize it during the job interview? I just nodded silently. There was no way I could admit that I had been staring so intently at the beautiful, efficient woman who had handled the stains so adeptly. During the job interview, I was genuinely shocked. To think that the face I had nostalgically remembered for 5 years would appear right in front of me. I'm not great with words, and that interview went poorly because of it. I thought for sure I wouldn't get the job, so I was surprised when I was hired. Seizing the moment, I decided to ask. I thought the interview was a disaster because I was so nervous in front of you, Miss Thompson. Why did you hire me? At my question, Miss Thompson smiled. Because you seemed strong. My face turned as red as a boiled lobster. This job can be pretty tough, right? Even people who are confident in their physical strength find it hard and end up quitting. You seemed like you'd be fine. I wished she hadn't said it in such a devilish way. It took me a while to get my blushing cheeks back to normal. I glanced at the clock. We had been stuck for over an hour. Miss Thompson's words, "because you seem strong," gave me courage. I'm going to check what's ahead. As I said this, Miss Thompson quickly grabbed my down jacket. It was the same jacket she had administered first aid on that time, and I still wear it with care. We don't even know where the front of the line is, and it's still snowing. Maybe we should just wait. Her lips were colorless. Despite wearing lipstick, that's how she appeared. I wanted to get Miss Thompson to a warm place as soon as possible. There's still some warm herbal tea in the thermos. And as I was explaining the contents of my bag, Miss Thompson grabbed my chest. "Don't go." Her trembling voice shook my heart. "I want to be of help, Miss Thompson. If it seems impossible, I'll come right back." With those words, I stepped outside, shovel in hand. From where the road becomes a single lane, it's 7 kilometers to the hotel. We were stuck about 2 kilometers in. So, at most, it's 5 kilometers. Since the hotel wasn't aware of the situation, the standstill must have occurred just a bit ahead. Stepping firmly into the accumulating snow, I began climbing the mountain road. I am confident in my physical strength. I also trust in the strength of my legs. Silently, I continue climbing the snowy path, fueled by Ms. Thompson's smile. Fortunately, I found the front car not too far ahead. It had slipped and was lying sideways across the road, its wheels stuck in a ditch at the edge. Inside, the passengers looked weary. They told me that the shoulder had been obscured by snow, and they had slipped into the ditch in an instant. The passengers of this lead car, along with those from the cars behind, had tried to get the car out of the ditch. But many were tourists unfamiliar with snow, and their efforts had been fruitless. Because the car was blocking the road, traffic was stuck on both sides, and likely, that's why no rescue had come from the hotel. I approached those who seemed capable of helping. When they said pushing hadn't moved it, I suggested lifting. I was confident in my strength. Encouraged by my call, a few hopeful volunteers agreed to help. We shoveled some of the surrounding snow and coordinated our efforts to lift together. It was a large van, heavy. But it budged slightly. Feeling the response, we put in more effort and tried lifting again. With legs apart for a better stance, lowering our centers of gravity, and tensing our abdomens, we exerted even more force than before. Slowly, the van began to rise, and I summoned all my strength for another push. Then, the wheels stuck in the ditch made it back onto the road. At that moment, cheers erupted. Though many expressed their thanks, I was eager to bring the good news to Miss Thompson and quickly left the scene. On my way back, I made sure to compact the snow under my feet. Upon reaching the car, Miss Thompson's eyes sparkled with excitement. Her face was so adorable in that moment, it made my heart skip a beat. After explaining what happened, Miss Thompson looked at me with teary eyes. "Amazing," she said, softly stroking my arm through the down jacket. Embarrassed, my face turned red. Just the two of us inside the car. Suddenly, the silence made my heart race. Miss Thompson's hand was on my arm, close enough to hear each other's breathing. Swept up in the sweet atmosphere, I considered confessing my feelings. I've liked her since she fixed my down jacket. But just then, the car in front started its engine and began to move slowly. "It's moving!" Her delighted exclamation snapped me back to reality, and I took a deep breath before starting the car engine. The confession would have to wait. Reassuring myself, I slowly drove up the mountain road. At the hotel, people were relieved and warming up in the lobby. The hotel staff had cranked up the heating and prepared extra stoves to welcome us. It seemed Ms. Thompson had postponed her business meeting and decided to help me instead. "The manager is swamped," she explained while helping me carry bed covers. "When my father was still around, I used to do deliveries myself." Her efficiency was impressive, and I found myself admiring her all over again. During my work, the manager learned of my efforts to clear the standstill and thanked me profusely. And then, I was unexpectedly given a complimentary stay voucher. "We were helpless without your help. Thank you so much. Please use this voucher to bring someone special," the manager said with a grin, glancing at Ms. Thompson. She was oblivious and just smiled at me saying, "That's great for you." I knew I had to make her notice my feelings. I made up my mind. On the drive back, my heart was pounding loudly. Although I had decided to confess, I struggled with how and when to broach the subject, nearly letting my heart race. Finally, I mustered a bit of courage. "Are you hungry? Maybe we could grab some food." But before I could finish, Ms. Thompson cut me off. "We're still on the clock. Stay focused on driving until we get back to the office." My little burst of courage deflated quickly. I had decided today was the day to confess, but that resolve fizzled out. The rest of the drive was silent, but we made it back to refill the gas and safely returned to the office. As we walked in, I punched the time card. "Looks like the work is all done," President Thompson said, and I suddenly felt a warm embrace from behind. She had wrapped her arms around me from my back to my stomach. I froze. "Thank you for today. How about we go out for dinner later?" My heart pounded wildly, as if trying to break free. I fumbled for words, and Miss Thompson's grip tightened around me. "Ha, you're really big. I have to put some effort into it or it'll come loose," she chuckled. Because of the down jacket, my waist seemed even larger than usual. But that wasn't what mattered now. My mind nearly short-circuited trying to understand the situation. Your hands." I just wanted to get some space to think, but when I said that, her voice softened, sounding slightly moist. "Is it bothersome?" As she asked. Her arms relaxed. I suddenly realized something. Hurriedly, I grasped both of Ms. Thompson's hands with mine. Hearing her puzzled voice, I steeled myself. I couldn't see what expression Ms. Thompson was making. That was probably for the best. "I like you." I blurted it out. The words seemed to echo in the empty office. I couldn't see Ms. Thompson's expression. Nor could I tell what emotions were packed into that, So, I poured out everything I had been holding back. "I'm sorry. I've been enchanted by you ever since you fixed my jacket at the stadium. That's why I recognized you immediately during the interview. After joining the company, seeing you handle work so efficiently made me fall for you even more. The times you looked anxious when working late. It made my heart skip a beat. It's been tough knowing there's nothing I could do. But today, was I able to be of any help to you today?" After a torrent of words, a brief silence fell. "Yes, really, you were a big help and very dependable." Her sweet voice came from behind me. "But..." At that word, my shoulders tensed. "Next time, take me with you. I'll make sure I'm prepared for the cold." I let go of Ms. Thompson's hands. And I turned to face her. "Does that mean..." My voice faltered, and Miss Thompson pursed her lips. I felt so lonely waiting alone. Waiting just isn't in my nature, she said, then on tiptoes, she kissed my cheek. I hugged her tightly. A year has passed since that day. Today, we are getting married. Emily, who was Miss Thompson, ready for the occasion, appeared before me. Dressed in a pure white gown, Emily looked like a goddess. Months after the snow incident, we used the complimentary stay voucher at that hotel. The manager, seeing us walk into the lobby arm in arm, greeted us with a broad smile. "I'm glad it worked out," he said quietly. He had a knack for observing people and had quickly realized I was smitten with Emily. Blushing, I listened as he whispered another piece to me. That day, Emily had eyes only for me. Hearing this made me a bit anxious. The whole relationship had started from that crisis, and I feared that once the excitement settled, maybe the magic would fade. Might there come a day when Emily would question why she fell for me? With these fears, I continued our relationship as if walking on a tightrope, proposing even amidst my doubts. Feeling guilty that Emily gladly accepted it, I spilled everything I was thinking. Emily burst into laughter. "Did you really think that?" "Silly, maybe it's my fault for not saying it earlier," she said shyly. A habit when she found it hard to express herself. "I've always liked strong men, that's why during the interview I thought you were so cool." Her words made my face heat up. "Of course, I hired you because I thought you'd do the job well, that's the main reason. But watching you work so hard and seriously after joining. You were very handsome. It bothered me a bit that you took so long to prepare, though. I'm pretty impatient. Emily took my hand. But thanks to you, I feel like I'm able to take life a little slower. I love the slow pace of time when I'm with you. So, please let me be your wife. Thus, my fears were dispelled, and today, I approach our wedding day with a tranquil heart. Running the company had been more burdensome on Emily than I had imagined. Having taken on such responsibilities without time to mourn her father's sudden passing, she had been strong. From now on, I wanted to be the one to ease her burdens. Facing the clear sky visible from the chapel, I vowed to make Emily happy forever.